everyone! This is part 2 of my video. If you are here to watch part 2, welcome! Welcome, welcome. If you haven't watched part 1, which is about Bank of America closing 2 of my credit cards in June of 2020, please watch that first. Please and thank you. This video is about unemployment and PUA and my journey with them. It is shady! Very, 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 very shady. Who is the real fraud? Not me. Not me. Both of these events occurred in 2020. Bank of America closing my credit cards and dealing with unemployment and PUA. But unemployment was ongoing into this year, 2023. This is going to be a crazy, wild ride with paperwork. All of it's mine. All of it is obtained legally. All legal. So please hit pause whenever you need a break. More to come after paperwork, aka my evidence. So please stay curious and open. Now, you guys are actually going to learn a little bit about me, and you will get to know my name. My name is Maria. Hi. I used to want to be a lawyer for a long time. In November 2017, I had something happen to me. In 2018, I wanted to go in a completely new direction, something I felt pulled to. I was happy for a new, creative, and passionate adventure that felt right. I became a certified life coach on March 14th, 2019, and worked at Enchanted Forest in July of 2019, all of 2020, and January 2021. I got my Nevada State business license in March of 2019, and my Las Vegas City business license in April of 2019. I left my previous job in July of 2019. I left for many reasons. All of them were valid. I was an independent contractor. In order to drum up business in the fall of 2019, I went to many networking events. I had a conversation with my new boss, Deborah Veach, and she had pointed me in the direction of networking events. She herself had to go do those things for her business, and so I was really grateful that she had given me that direction. Now, I had heard about Meetup and Eventbrite before, but I had never used them for networking events. Now, at Enchanted Forest, everyone had to have the same standard business cards, so I had to have those made up before I started going on the networking event circuit. So there are many types of networking events. There's like the regular ones, there's co-ed ones, there's all women's networking events. A lot of those were luncheons. And a women's networking event that I attended often was from a woman named Ebony Stepp. I went to speed networking events, and that was like speed dating, but instead it's speed networking. And I was in a car dealership in one of the rooms that you could rent. I went to events in Summerlin, Nevada, and Henderson, Nevada, and those are in different directions, so I was going all over the place. I also went to an event at Bahama Breeze, and that is closer towards the Las Vegas Strip, but I never attended any events on the Strip because I was a Las Vegas local. I also attended an event at the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce. And then for the regular co-ed networking events, a man's that I attended often was a man named Denny Mayu. And with his, I learned about and was trying to perfect the elevator pitch. So something to know about the networking events. When you go to them, yes, you are trying to drum up business. You're passing out your business cards. You're trying to build up rapport with people, but you are also learning. You're in a learning curve, and I very much was with that. So I didn't know anything about an elevator pitch, so I learned about it. Then I was trying to get better at it, and you just keep working at it. You're building skills, and you're also trying to learn who your ideal client is. So you're constantly learning. I went to an event on public speaking and on social media. Those were separate events. On February 19th, 2020, I spoke at a networking event I attended regularly, which was from Denny Mayu. And I had friends that actually wanted to attend and see me, and I was terrified, terrified out of my mind, full of nerves, and I didn't have anyone from my personal life go because I said, no, I can't do this yet. I need time. But I was just really, really proud of my own self that I worked up the courage to do it. Because I just want to say that, no one's perfect, and everyone has things that they're not good at, and it's really, really hard working on the skills that you aren't the best in. It's so much easier working on areas that you excel at or you're naturally good at. It's harder, so much harder, working on the areas that, could use some improvement. So, it's constantly building. So in March 2020, I started teaching classes at Enchanted Forest. See, look at my timeline. Look at that, March 2020. That's when I started teaching. I also attended other practitioners' classes at Enchanted Forest in 2019 and 2020. Enchanted Forest was a completely new world for me. It's a Reiki meditation center. It is a metaphysical place. So for me, I was like a sponge. I just wanted to learn. So I was the only life coach. So the other practitioners were teaching classes that were completely different from mine. So I went to classes on, say, Reiki circles or drum circles or sound bath, gongs and different things. So I was it was a new world. Plus, it was also a new job for me. So I was trying to build a rapport with the other practitioners. And since it's a new job, I was getting the lay of the land. Now, Enchanted Forest did want to stay open, but it wasn't deemed essential. So Enchanted Forest did close. And so in April of 2020, on Zoom, I started doing love donation classes. Now, I actually put this down here just because I thought it would be good for people to see. I don't know, I just got a feeling that people need to see it. Go in the direction that is going to make you happier and more fulfilled. So I just wanted to say for my own self, the direction that I was going in was different, but I was excited and nervous, scared, had doubts, fears, insecurities, wondering if I'm doing the right thing, because I really went no net. And I have to say that one of the best things to do in life is to kind of go no net, to take just a full risk of doing something, because you learn so much about your own self. You have to trust yourself more, and you test your own mettle and your own grit. And I have to say, I was completely terrified, and I still did it in 2019. And so now in 2023, me doing no net is so much easier. And I do. And now I'm kind of okay, I can do no net, no problem, building skills. We're always building. So I did want to let you guys know just some things that were going on in my life before a global pandemic occurs. So this was all what was going on in my life, and other things too, of course, in 2019 and in 2020, up till the global pandemic, of course. And I did want to say this also because I was living my own life, just like everyone was. Everyone was living their own lives before 2020, And I think that's important to remember because it seems to have gotten lost. Before I get into the paperwork part of this, I did want to talk about my experience applying to unemployment and PUA. I applied for both on May 22nd, 2020. Both were completely different from each other. Unemployment was the easiest to apply for. I put both my previous employer and Enchanted Forest down, and it did say I quit to enter self-employment, so my application would either be delayed or denied. I was expecting to not be approved for unemployment. That's what I was thinking. With PUA, that was a mess. Even applying was a mess. I would say that took me 45 minutes to an hour to complete, and I feel like it must have been created in March or April of 2020 because they threw so many things in it. It was also really confusing. They were leaving out things like putting down your previous employer, and they weren't including things that should have been included. But for my people who live in Las Vegas, who have applied to jobs at hotels over the years, you know that it takes a long time to fill out applications. So for me, doing 45 minutes to an hour with the PUA was like nothing because especially in my 20s, I was applying for a lot of jobs on the Las Vegas Strip, and they asked for so many things like 10 years of your work history and to explain your gaps and whatnot. So I was more used to filling out long applications. Thankfully, the hotels changed this because it was excessive. But I did notice the PUA seemed very mismatched. We also have to think about who the PUA was for. The PUA was for people who didn't have regular jobs, people who are small business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are independent contractors, gig workers, etc. But it was also for people who didn't have jobs either. So if you were a stay-at-home parent, you could apply for the PUA. I feel like that is something to keep in mind. This is my first piece of paper that I got from PUA. Now, I crossed out things, barcodes and things that didn't need to be included, but you can see it says that the claim effective date up here is 2/2/2020, and then it's going till 12/26/2020. Now, PUA, something to keep in mind, PUA actually comes directly to the email that you provide, and then information from unemployment, all of the letters and paperwork, came mailed to me. So I was able to differentiate the difference between, okay, PUA I get directly in my emails, and unemployment gets mailed to me in the mail. Now, something to even notice here. This wasn't even listed, the date. The date wasn't even listed for paperwork for PUA. I just went and I wrote that myself because I'm like, oh, it wasn't even included. So I'm not going to run through the whole thing, but it's going to show that the weekly amount that I would have received would be $300, and the maximum amount in Nevada would be $469. Now, this wasn't actually available to put my previous employer, and I had said that in my application. However, because I think this popped up with my Social Security, so I had to put what I had made last year, like in 2019 from my previous job, and I had left in July of 2019, so it would have been the third quarter, the third term. So self-employment, $15,000. Now, here is something to note where it says for people who have insufficient or no employment or self-employment income, people are eligible to have a minimum of $181. So this is also for people who would be like stay-at-home parents. So it was anyone who also didn't have like a regular job could apply for the PUA. So that actually is like really nice. Like that's great from the start. You know, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's nice. That's nice. Now, this is the second page of this, and I don't know how many people noticed this, but down here it says permits future redetermination during disaster period. Wouldn't that be like the whole time? So basically, you're supposed to, within 21 days of applying for the PUA, you're also supposed to send in other information. Otherwise, they can redetermine your claim. I don't know if people knew that. This is also the other part to this. This was the last page. I just wanted for people to see, look, this is just a little amount of like the important notice about fraud. Just keep in mind. Keep in mind. I got this on 5/27. See, my name listed, Maria. Lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is from 5/27/2020. Here it lists my previous employer and it lists the exact amount. I myself didn't put this down, so this popped up from my social security number. So if you look, the numbers are almost the same. I went a little lower for my own self of this, but I received this, so now this is a new amount, $469, that I would be getting weekly. So I went, oh, okay, two different amounts. This is from unemployment, and this got mailed to me. So here, to make notice, it says date mailed 5/26/2020. And then it says claim effective date 5/17/2020, program UI. So I'm pretty sure I had other paperwork with this, but I didn't keep it. So the way I have been operating my paperwork is whatever I have that's either emailed to me or mailed to me, I'm using as my paperwork, and also a piece of paper that I needed to download. So that is what is all my paperwork is. So if I didn't have anything, I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to use it. So this I received from UI, and I also received another letter with it, but it had the debit card, the little debit card for it, the unemployment debit card. So I did receive that, but I went with the PUA because I heard from the PUA first. So even though it was mailed the 26th, I didn't get it then. So this is the breakdown for my previous employer, which you saw before, and it shows like the little bank of what it would be, $5,513 for 20 weeks, and I'd be getting the weekly amount of $281. So when I received this in the mail, I actually didn't do anything with it because I had already gone with PUA and I was backdating and doing things with that. So I just put it in a drawer and I didn't touch it. So I received this letter in the mail from unemployment, and the date is 7/29/2020. That was mailed, so I received it after then. My name, Las Vegas. So I was actually surprised when I got this. But what it is, it's letting me know that after my claim with unemployment expires, I'm eligible to get the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, PEUC, for 13 weeks, an additional 13 weeks. And then if that expires, like if that runs out, you're able to get another additional 13 weeks from the State Extended Benefits, SEB. So I was actually really surprised when I got this, but I didn't do anything with it yet. This is the back, and it's in Spanish, just so you know. Now, August 7th, 2020. This is from the PUA, which I received in my email. This is telling me that I'm actually ineligible for the PUA because I qualify for a different program, which is unemployment. So when I received this, I was so frustrated. And I'll explain also what was going on with the PUA as well. So the PUA was different from unemployment, where even the claim effective date is 2/2/2020. So when I was online, I was able to backdate up till then. And so I was filing weekly. I filed all in June, all of July with PUA. But I received no money. I didn't receive any money from PUA. So it was also nerve-wracking trying to figure out, well, I'm filing weekly and I did all my back dates, but nothing's happening, nothing's moving with my file. So trying to get through on the phone was really awful, and I know people know this. I know people know this. It was really rough. And so I would call a bunch of times, and my limit for being on hold was an hour. So I called every so often, and then finally I was able to get through. And so I spoke to someone, and they told me that you just have to keep filing and then someone will contact you. So when I received this, I never expected to not get denied. Like, I wasn't expecting to be denied from PUA because basically I got approved for both, but I didn't touch both. I went with the PUA first because I heard from them, but I thought that was going to make the most sense, and I thought I was going to be denied from unemployment. So I had been filing weekly. And so I also want to talk about the PUA and the experience of that as well, because whoever created the PUA also really didn't know the audience of who this was for, because, and I can't remember if it was in June or July of 2020, but there was no button for independent contractor. There was a button for gig worker, like to pick, of options to pick of like what you are. And so I think many people picked gig worker. I myself did because the independent contractor button was not there. Like the list of things that you had to pick from didn't make a whole lot of sense. And independent contractor has been around before gig worker. And it was surprising to see independent contractor not on there. And so I had to go with the next best option, which was gig worker. So I bring this up because there was a time, it was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks worth, where the gig worker button, poof, disappeared. It just went away. It just completely went away. And I realized it went away because PUA was probably upset that too many people were choosing that option. Something happened because it got brought back. When you don't find something that's 100% you, you go with the next best option. If independent contractor was listed, I would have been choosing that each and every single time. That would have been great to differentiate between independent contractor and gig worker. Also, independent contractor, the term has been around longer than gig worker. Despite me filing all those weeks, I didn't receive any money. It says you have 11 days from this date to file an appeal. I filed an appeal and submitted it electronically. I don't have it, but I don't need it. I was not expecting to get this. I was believing that when someone got to my file, they would just approve it. It would have been great to have known this, say, May 22nd or May 27th or any time in early June. I wonder how many people got approved for both, but you can only get one program. So that's also confusing. People are getting approved for both, but you can only get one program. Why weren't you denied for one of them from the start? I want you guys to see this. Look, this is in August. Look how much they put in there from May to August. They said, oh, we got to add more stuff. We got to add more stipulations to things. We got to keep adding. So more stipulations about fraud and whatnot were put in here. It got big. Once I got denied from PUA, I went to look at unemployment. It was either on August 7th or August 8th where I grabbed my unemployment debit card and I activated it. Important to know, extremely important to know. What bank was unemployment affiliated with? Bank of America. See how these are connected? All right. I went online and I had to reactivate my claim. I called a bunch of times trying to get through to speak to someone, but couldn't. However, one of my friends gave me an email for unemployment, and it was for DETR, which is why I have down here starred DETR-adj.north.ui. My friend gave me the emails for the north and the south location. The only difference was instead of it saying north, it said south. I sent 2 emails and I wanted to see which one would respond, and the north location responded. Which means I also have email correspondence from me with Unemployment UI. I still haven't received any money at this point, so I will be playing catch up for my claim for all the weeks I was filing with PUA, which would be May and June, and anything before I applied, because you were also able to do that as well. I wanted this to be stated now before I get into the email correspondence. I want to say thank you to everyone at Unemployment who responded to me so quickly, because it helped tremendously. So thank you so much. With emailing, I was able to find out more information and get things answered. We are now going to get into the emails. The starred portion is DETR responding to my email. So my first email that I had sent was Monday, August 31st, 2020 to DETR. To whom it may concern, hi, my name is Maria. My claimant ID is blank. I am emailing about my FPUC benefits. I have never received them for when it was $600 and now that it is $400 a week. I work at Enchanted Forest Reiki Meditation Center as a life coach and an independent contractor. In March, Enchanted closed because of the quarantine, so the pandemic has affected my business and income. I applied for another program in May and didn't think that I would qualify for the UI. However, when I did get it, I didn't receive the FPUC. Also, under the Smart Links section, I haven't been able to get back paid or have that be an option if I wanted to. I have called several times trying to get through to speak with someone about these 2 things, FPUC and back pay option, but I haven't been able to speak to anyone. I know you are very backed up and busy. I would appreciate your help in any way possible. Please and thank you. Someone responded, same day. What weeks do you need to file for? Me, Monday, August 31st. Hi, thank you for getting back to me so quickly. I filed May 17th, but I had to reactivate it. So the weeks I have filed so far are 8/9/2020, 8/16, 8/23, 8/30. Unemployment responded to me Monday, August 31st. Our records show you have already filed for those weeks. So they answered me, but they didn't know exactly what I was asking. And that is okay. Me, Monday, August 31st. Yes, I understand that. I'm talking about the money from the FPUC, the additional money. That is what I'm looking for and inquiring about. Also the fact to have the option of getting back paid. Unemployment responded, up here. The CARES Act Extra 600 program ended on 7/25/20. Me, August 31st. I never got an option to have my stuff backdated because it was not an option under my Smart Links, and I have not been paid any additional money from the FPUC. These are the 2 things that I am inquiring about, the option to get back paid and the federal pandemic unemployment compensation benefits. Thank you. A person responded same day. You can check our website for updates on the CARES Act payments if they become available again. This is important to note because this is the correct term, the federal pandemic unemployment compensation benefits. That's the correct terminology for the extra 600 and the extra 400. Because my claim, I was backdating, I just wanted to receive the same amount of money that other people were receiving prior. And they were calling it the CARES Act. So that's confusing because this is the correct term and the CARES Act is different. So maybe they didn't know what I was asking, like perhaps some of them weren't aware. Me, August 31st. Okay, I will do that. Thank you. Can you help me with getting the backdate option under my Smart Links on my file? I have never had that option available. Please and thank you. Someone responded same day. Please try now to file for the weeks in May and June. Me, same day, thank you. I was able to file those weekly claims. Am I able to receive the FPUC for those weeks since it was never available to me before and I couldn't get through to talk to someone? Someone responded, same day, Monday, August 31st. Go ahead and file for the rest of the missing weeks. Me, Monday, August 31st. Thank you. Will I also be getting the $600 for those weeks for the FPUC since it wasn't available to me before? Someone responded on Tuesday, September 1st. You can now file for the weeks in July if you were unemployed that month. Yes, the extra $600 has now been included for the weeks you filed yesterday. This is important to know. You are going to hear me repeat things in emails, and it is because I realized that many people were responding to my emails. It wasn't just one person. It seemed whoever's email popped up in the queue, that's who they were responding to. Once I figured that out, I started to just put information in my emails, and that's why you're going to hear me repeat things consistently. And also, I'm advocating for myself, which means I'm looking for two things and they weren't being answered, so I kept asking in order to advocate for yourself. That is empowerment. And also, this is good to know, because I don't know if many people at unemployment knew how the extra money worked, which is why they maybe perhaps weren't responding to me. I figured it out along the way that when money from that bank, I had showed you from the weekly amount, like how much you'd get paid weekly, it's coming from that little bank. When you file weekly, money gets subtracted from that bank amount, but it goes onto your unemployment debit card. And that money, the federal government puts in the extra $600 and the extra $400 on your bank card. I didn't know that until it happened. And that took time because I was backdating and whatnot, it took time for me to figure that out. But once I did, I was like, oh, okay, I know how this works. Since people were not giving me that answer, maybe they themselves didn't know that. It came out teeny tiny. I don't know why, so I'll bring it closer. Someone responded to my August 31st question. On Tuesday, September 1st, the CARES Act payments ended on 7/25/2020. See, so it goes to show that many people were answering the emails. This is from me, Wednesday, September 2nd. Good morning. Could you please backdate my unemployment to March 29th, please? I filed with the PUA originally because I didn't think I would qualify for the UI. I got disqualified from the PUA because this was available to me. My file never had that option to backdate, and just in the last couple of days, I have been able to for some weeks, till May 17th. I would appreciate it, please, and thank you. Sincerely, Maria. Someone responded Wednesday, September 2nd. The backdate issue has been created per your request. Please complete the fact-finding form link for an adjudicator to review. Now, this kind of telling. Why? Do you see how many times I kept asking for the backdate option? And then they put per your request. So if people didn't have that on their file, on their claim, did you have to request it? Otherwise they wouldn't give it to you? Because look how many times I had to keep asking. I had to keep asking for things, and I was not letting it go until until I got some answers. And I knew that they could backdate because I had people tell me that there were backdate options available for them, and I didn't have that on mine, and so I just want the things that everyone else had. This is also good to know, the fact-finding form. I filled that out online electronically. I don't have that, but that is fine. I don't need it. But I had to fill it out in order to have an adjudicator review my file in order to have it backdated to the beginning of the pandemic. What do we have here? It's PUA. Hey PUA, what's up? All right, this is dated 9/12/2020. PUA is telling me that I am eligible for PUA for the weekly amount of $281, and it does show my previous employer. And I thought to myself, why am I receiving this? You rejected me in August. August 7th, you rejected me. PUA, why a month later are you telling me that I'm approved? I didn't do anything with this. I ignored this because I just thought, this doesn't make sense. Also, I hadn't heard back from my appeals that I had filed with the PUA, and I wasn't expecting to. That's the other part of that. So I ignored this letter. I ignored. Another email. Tuesday, September 15th, from me. Good morning. Thank you for creating the backdate button. I backdated my weekly claims. I completed the fact-finding form a couple of weeks ago. How long does it take for an adjudicator to review? On my homepage, it says issues delaying payment because it's greater than 2 weeks. So I guess I'm just waiting for someone to review it. Someone responded, same day. The issue has been resolved. Please file the weekly claims. PUA, why did you come back, PUA? 9/15, what's going on, PUA? So now PUA is telling me that I'm eligible for the amount of $469. And this one has my name and my previous employer. And I just thought to myself, you sent me 2 emails the following month. What's up? Doesn't make sense, so I ignored this as well. But was I frustrated and annoyed? Yes, the answer to that is yes. This is from Unemployment. This was mailed to me. It was mailed on 9/16/2020. I didn't receive it until after then, but the decision date was on 9/15/2020. The decision, you are entitled to benefits from 3/29/2020. Reason for decision, you have requested your claim for unemployment insurance benefits be effective 3/29/2020. You filed your claim on 5/22/2020, and it is effective 5/17/2020, the Sunday of the week in which you filed. The information you provided established good cause for requesting your claim to be backdated. As you have shown good cause, your request to backdate your claim is allowed. When I received this, I was very happy. And I have to say thank you to this adjudicator. I never interacted with this person, so I don't know who this person was, but this person was being fair. This person had integrity because they could see the ping-ponging back and forth, the yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. This adjudicator was doing the right thing, and I just want to say thank you to this adjudicator. I also wanted to point out that the back date for unemployment goes to 3/29/2020, and PUA from the start was in the beginning of February, just for people to be aware. Now we have emails. Monday, September 21st, this is from me. Good morning. I went to file my backdated weekly claims, and the smart link was gone, and I had to reactivate my claim. I got a letter in the mail saying my backdate got approved, so I went to do it. Will the link come back up again, or can you please put it back up, please, and thank you. Thank you for your help with everything. Someone responded, same day. The UI claim automatically deactivates when you don't file weekly claims after 2 weeks. Since you stopped filing weekly after 8/29, you had to reactivate it. In order to keep the UI claim active, you will need to file weekly and report any earnings. See how helpful it is to have to do the emails? I hope people were able to email because getting through on the phone was nuts. Okay, this is from me, Tuesday, September 22nd. Okay, thank you for the information. I was waiting for money to be dispersed, and that took a while, and it did on 9/15, which you can see on my file. Can you put under my smart links the rest of the weeks I have left to backdate? The weeks I have left are 3/29 to 5/16. The last backdate I did was till 5/23. My effective date of my claim got moved to 3/29, so I just want to finish backdating my file, please, and thank you. I was about to do that yesterday because I got approved to do it. Thank you for all of your help with everything. I appreciate it. Someone responded same day. Please make sure to report your gross earnings for those weeks since 3/29/2020. I do appreciate that the person responded. However, I don't think we can really, it's not fair to think that people can report all of those earnings, especially in the month of April of 2020. If you weren't considered an essential worker, a lot of people were sheltering in place. It's not like people were looking for jobs. And April was probably more of the question mark crucial month with things. So we can't really expect people to be reporting information. It clearly does depend on what you were doing and what your work was, but at the same time, I wouldn't be expecting that whole month of April for people to be putting information down. Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Good morning. I filed my weekly claim on Sunday, but nothing is showing up. I didn't file for a couple of weeks, and I had to reactivate it. They were asking me questions that didn't pertain to my current situation. I had quit my previous employment at Margaritaville before the pandemic in July of 2019 and have been an independent contractor as a life coach at Enchanted Forest. I looked and now my file says quit to enter self-employment. I didn't quit Margaritaville just recently. It was in 2019. Can you please fix it in your system so that I can receive my unemployment benefits? I don't know what happened. Thank you for reading this. Someone responded same day. Since there are earnings from my previous employer in the base period, the issue needs to be adjudicated. Because my whole claim was about me playing catch up, I didn't always file weekly. I wasn't doing it intentionally. There were times I just did forget, and also I didn't have a normal job. This, however, was the best thing because my claim was not normal, so I was able to figure out what unemployment was doing. They flagged me for something I was approved for in May of 2020. Why are you flagging me now when you didn't flag me in May of 2020? I should also say that when your claim gets flagged, you also can't access your money. You can't do anything with it. It's frozen. Sunday, November 15th, to whom it may concern, this is from me. Hi, I had to reactivate my file and they asked me different questions and now it says there is an issue delaying payment. Can you override this, please? It says the issue is I quit my job to enter self-employment. I have gone through everything months ago where I filed with the PUA and unemployment at the same time. I did leave Margaritaville and I work as an independent contractor at Enchanted Forest as a life coach. I didn't think I would qualify for unemployment and went with the PUA. Months later, I got denied from the PUA saying I had other options available to me, which was unemployment. I then started filing my weekly claims in August, which you can see, and had to go through backdating, and they said I qualified for everything. I got a letter in the mail approving me for it and changing the date my claim was filed and everything. Can you please remove the issue delaying my payment, please? I would appreciate it. Thank you for reading this. And then they responded up here Tuesday, November 17th, and this is a copy-paste version of basically saying due to high claim volumes, it's going to be whenever they get to you and an adjudicator has to review your file. Me, Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. Good morning. I keep filing. It is now past 10 weeks where I keep filing and no one has called me to look at my file. I sent a couple of emails in November and one earlier this week. Can someone please help me with this? I have $510 left on my claim and I just want someone to help me resolve the issue. I have patiently been waiting and filing like I was told to do, and I have never been contacted by anyone in regards to looking at my file. I filed with the PUA first and got denied and said I qualified for other programs, unemployment, and started utilizing it, Everything is in my file. I even got granted to have my file backdated. My issue delay in payment isn't an issue. I never lied or anything. I filed with the PUA first and was waiting on them for months and then got a rejection letter. So the quit to enter self-employment was not something I hid. I left my job in July 2019 to start a new job as an independent contractor at Enchanted Forest as a life coach, which is why I was filing with the PUA until I got the letter rejecting me because I qualified for unemployment. Please help me to get this fixed and not a copy-paste version to wait for an adjudicator. Thank you for reading this. Someone responded to me Friday, January 22nd, 2021, and they did the copy-paste version of you have to wait for an adjudicator. I also looked because I thought to myself, what's the other email that I sent January 11th? And I saw it's this same exact email and no one had responded, so I just put this in here. This email is from Monday, April 5th, 2021. This is from me. Hi, this message is for Violet, the adjudicator that called me and I spoke with on 4/2/2021. Here is my 1099 form that you requested. It is from 2020. I didn't have one for 2019. The only income from 2019 came from Margaritaville. Let me know if you have any more questions for me or need any more information. Thank you. And then someone responded, same day, thank you. I will bring this closer. I don't know why it came up very teeny tiny, but just so you guys can see. Things to talk about with this. This is actually an important email because my claim, this did not go unnoticed by me, like not even the slightest. My claim ended in March 2021. And I was thinking to myself, it's either the third or the fourth week, but we have to remember, my claim got moved up to 3/29/2020 from when it started, so it usually goes for 1 year. That would mean it would expire, my claim would end 3/29/2021. I heard back from this adjudicator after my claim ended, which is why I also put, I spoke with the adjudicator on 4/2/2021. I know this was intentional and shady. Why? Why was this done? Because otherwise I am not able to apply or receive those extended benefits, the PEUC and the SEB. Remember that, excuse me, that piece of paper I had in the beginning, I think it was dated on like 7/29/2020, telling me that I could receive extended benefits if my claim expired. They used the word expired instead of being ended, but this is different. They waited to contact me after my claim ended. So that would mean I'd have to redo a whole other claim again. The time frame from when an adjudicator contacted me about my claim was very close after my whole claim ended. That is intentional. That is on purpose. Completely on purpose. Remember from Bank of America and the window of phone calls from Sunrise and me Googling closed credit cards? That window was extremely small. It's the same here. It applies. It completely applies. See how everything connects? Everything connects. I also want to say that when this adjudicator contacted me, I still have this voicemail from this adjudicator. And what this person wanted from me was standard. They wanted dates of employment, job title, how many hours you worked per week, if you were full-time or part-time, your hourly rate, did you quit, the reason for the quit, etc. Standard questions to be asking. which I was okay with, and I provided that information in a very timely manner. What do we have here? We have from unemployment the decision on my claim. It is dated 4/8/2021. The decision date was on 4/7/2021. What was the decision? You are not entitled to benefits effective 7/14/2019 until you return to work in covered employment and earn at least $281 in each of the 10 weeks. Reason for decision? You quit this employment to enter self-employment. The information you provided did not establish that you had a compelling reason to quit. Your employer did not provide requested information regarding your reason for quitting. As you have not shown entering self-employment was more beneficial than the available work, good cause for quitting the available work has not been shown. Wow. Now, I must have received a voicemail about this, maybe to log in online, because I knew of this decision on 4/7/2021. After reading this decision, not having a compelling reason to quit, I was livid out of my mind, and again, I cried angry tears. What gives this adjudicator the right to weigh in on me quitting my previous job that I quit in 2019 that I never hid? It would be on me if I didn't disclose that. People quit jobs for many, many reasons, but don't always say the full story. But that is besides the point. That's not even the point. This adjudicator had nothing on me. This woman had nothing on me. She was grasping at straws. The fact that this reasoning is being allowed to say that people are committing fraud is alarming and a huge, huge ethical problem. This is groundless. This is nothing. This is nothing. My job was to provide information about myself and my employment. It was up to unemployment and PUA to communicate with each other and tell me which program I would be approved for and receive assistance from. Why is this so difficult and then making it seem like people are the ones committing fraud? This adjudicator was clearly on a power trip. She was in a mood and wielding her power and using it incorrectly. It isn't okay that people aren't being fair and impartial. Like, look at this. Look at this. I had 2 adjudicators look at my claim. One approves my back date to 3/29/2020, and the other tells me I'm committing fraud. Does that make sense? No. It also goes to show how much honesty and integrity come into play. Integrity has to do with the individual and the entity. Whatever age you are does not mean that is the level of integrity you have. You have to build integrity. You have to build it. It doesn't just come automatically. So one adjudicator has integrity, the other, 0. Unemployment. You saying I did not have a compelling reason to quit is pathetic. You don't get a say in what I did in July 2019. I was living my own life. In March and April of 2019, I was getting my state and city business licenses. So that was the direction I was going in, and I quit my previous job in July 2019. You do not have the right to weigh in on this. You don't. I will repeat, you do not have the right. It's just sad. It's sad that this occurred, and what I see is a misuse of power. With the misuse of power, trying to nullify my whole claim as if I'm the one doing something wrong, I kept the 4/19/2021 date in mind because that's the last day to appeal. So of course I was going to appeal. That's the back. This is a notification of overpayment. All of the dates are the same. All this paperwork came together. The important part to know from here is that I owe $18,496. I'm pretty sure it's that amount from the extra $600 and the extra $400. That's the back. This came together as well. It says notification of overpayment. Notice, by completing this form and sending it to the payment address shown below, you are requesting, in all caps, that the Employment Security Division agree to your repayment plan. If, in all caps, your plan is approved, you will receive a copy for your records. So it's saying that I owe the $18,496 and my minimum monthly payment amount would be $364. And I could also create my own payment plan, like a different amount, but it has to be more than the $364. Also, no one's requesting this. No one is requesting this, period. So it is also alarming what unemployment is trying to put in their paperwork. It's very shady. That's the back. This is an overpayment breakdown, which quite frankly doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like it really doesn't. But like for instance, in April, I put down $20 because I was teaching the Love Donation classes. The months of April and May were indicator months for me to apply to programs because people didn't have a lot of extra money to give, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, and like that makes sense. So the way unemployment is operating, it's like this is a worldwide pandemic, but we are going to do business as usual. No, it's not. You have to make adjustments. Learning how to pivot in life is a skill. Also, I did back dates and I was filing weekly for May, June, and July with PUA. So I wasn't like, my stuff isn't completely the same. Also, I want to point out the month of July is a question mark month because the CARES Act was ending. That's how unemployment worded it, the extra money. The extra money was ending. This is my appeal. My appeal is the treasure. I mean, all of my paperwork is, but my appeal was the treasure for me because I was on sheer will and determination, adrenaline, and frustration of like, no, I'm not gonna let this stand. Like, this isn't okay. The adjudicator had nothing on me, and I thought to myself, maybe she was upset at her own life with things, because this also happens with people. When people aren't happy with their own lives, they also take it out on others, and that also is not okay. But now we are going to get into my appeal, and I have to say my appeal rocks. It rocks. I had to do 2 appeals, and they had to be sent to Carson City, Nevada, and that is up north, and it had to be postmarked by a certain date. And they also don't give you a whole lot of time to write your appeal either, I have to say that. I worked on this for 3 days, 2 days of just writing, and the 3rd day writing and editing. I needed a few days to process after my UI determination, and like I had to go on the hunt for ink and things. But I was ready. Want to know why? Because I am a lioness. And like, you messed with the wrong person. Like, you just messed with the wrong person with this. So now I'm going to get into what I wrote. Appeal of decision denying unemployment benefits. I, Maria Blank, am appealing the decision that was made on April 7th, 2021, regarding my unemployment benefits. I have provided substantial documentation proving I received benefits with no duplicity on my part, that I was honest and forthcoming with information from the beginning, and that I was following all of the steps, information, and guidelines that were provided by you, DETR. I will also show why your decision to revoke my benefits is groundless and misguided. I have also sent a copy of this appeal to the Benefits of Integrity programs that addresses the notification of overpayment. I have provided documentation that I will reference and for you to look at while going through my appeal. In order. Number 1, copy of UI denial decision on 4/7/2021. Number 2, copy of notice of PUA monetary determination number 1 on 5/22/2020. Number 3, copy of notice of PUA monetary determination number 2 on 5/27/2020. Number 4, copy of notice of UI monetary determination mailed on 5/26/2020, effective 5/17/2020. Number 5, copy of PUA disqualifying determination received on 8/7/2020. Number 6, copy of UI additional benefit eligibility under PEUC and SEB, mailed on 7/29/2020. Number 7, copy of UI backdate decision to be effective starting 3/29/2020, mailed 9/16/2020, decision 9/15/2020. Number 8, copies of email exchanges from me, Maria blank, to you, DETR, asking for assistance and information while also being transparent, beginning from 8/31/2020 into 2021. Whew. So I did want to just say, I wanted to point out this for people that this, like these numbers, how I wrote this is how I write. I didn't learn this from anybody. No one taught me this. And the way I will write appeals and different things, I go specific and I put dates. And I wanted this to be stated just for people to look at. You can always use this as a reference to look at if you are doing an appeal for something. But this is the documentation that DETR has to look at. And look at this. I have a lot of documentation, which goes to show, am I the one that's being shady? Or is Unemployment and PUA being shady? I applied the same day on 5/22/2020 for the PUA and UI. I didn't think I would qualify for unemployment, but I was told to apply anyway. I left my job at Margaritaville in July 2019 for an independent contractor position as a life coach at Enchanted Forest Reiki Center. I filled out the PUA first, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, and then I applied for UI, Unemployment. A question did get asked of me while filling out online for UI, and I did say I was self-employed, and it said that might delay or disqualify me. I thought for sure I would receive a letter of denial. I did not, which is provided. I heard back first from PUA. UI took a little longer, so I went with the PUA. I have provided PUA letters of determination, which showed 2 different weekly amounts. I was approved for $300 and $469. Please reference number 2 and number 3. And I also had written on the PUA online application that I was confused of where to put IMC, my previous employer. I wrote my explanation online and addressed if I filled out the PUA application incorrectly, which was very confusing and tedious. I received in the mail my notice of monetary determination for UI, number 4, in the mail, and it determined that I was eligible for benefits, which also showed the breakdown of the quarters. The 4th quarter is blank because I was not there, which coincides with me saying I left in July 2019. UI showed the breakdown for the weekly amount, $281, and the maximum payable amount of $5,513. I had decided to go with the PUA since I was starting to do the backdate filing. I didn't activate my UI card I received in the mail. I didn't do anything with it but keep the paperwork. UI approved me in May 2020, knowing that I was self-employed and that I was working at Enchanted Forest. I did leave for another job and be an independent contractor and be self-employed. I did not lie. I was simply trying to figure out which program I would receive assistance from during a global pandemic. I kept filing weekly with the PUA, but nothing was happening. I called and finally got to speak to someone, and they said for me to keep filing weekly and someone will review my claim. I didn't get a determination until 8/7/2020 that I was ineligible for the PUA because I qualified for another program, which was the UI, number 5. I was extremely frustrated, angry, scared, and stressed. I had spent all of that time waiting for a response, waiting and doing what I was told to do. I wasn't expecting to be ineligible, but that was because I was approved for UI. I received in the mail number 6 of being eligible for additional benefits through UI. So I went online, I had to reactivate my claim, and I activated my unemployment debit card since I was no longer eligible for the PUA. I was filing weekly, but I couldn't backdate. I couldn't get additional money because I needed someone from UI to approve it. Getting through on the phone was horrendous, so someone gave me an email to use. So I started communicating via email with you, DETR number 8. In the beginning, people were very helpful. I was able to get some questions answered. I was able to start backdating, and I also explained that I went through PUA first. I had some weeks get approved, but then I needed an adjudicator to backdate to the very beginning of the pandemic and quarantine. I got the backdate approved on 9/15/2020, number 7, and my claim was increased to $7,306, which I discovered when I logged in online. Since I was waiting for backdates and approval, I didn't always file weekly. I did have to reactivate a few times. The last time I did, that which was either at the end of October or early November 2020. Different questions were asked that I wasn't asked before in May 2020 or other reactivations. Again, I was upfront. I was asked dates of when I started my business and if I had a business license, and I do. I fill out everything honestly, and then it said, I quit to enter self-employment. All of a sudden, this was flagged when it wasn't in May 2020. I will repeat, these questions were not asked of me prior. It was very telling that you, DETR, were making it more difficult for people to receive benefits. More hoops were put into place that weren't there prior. From there, communication was awful with you, DETR. I was constantly told to keep filing weekly and that an adjudicator will contact me. I didn't hear from anyone until after my claim benefits expired. They expired at the end of March 2021. I had $510 left on my claim, which I couldn't access because of my claim being flagged, and I also couldn't apply for additional benefits. Also, as a side note, when I applied to have my claim backdated, an adjudicator approved me, and I also left the reasons why I was requesting the backdate and explained about filing with the PUA first and getting denied because I qualified for UI. I also wrote about this in the email correspondence number 8, which is highlighted throughout. In the UI denial decision, number 1, you said I didn't provide a compelling reason to quit. I quit for multiple reasons. I also quit in 2019, which I never denied or hid. I was very forthcoming. However, this was never a question asked in May 2020 when I got approved for the UI benefits. It wasn't flagged. This is an unsubstantiated question to be asking now, when that was never a question in May 2020. This question has no merit. You approved me and are now trying to renege and revoke altogether me receiving assistance during and still occurring a worldwide pandemic. It is unfounded, groundless, misguided, and inhumane to expect me to pay back assistance I needed and still need because it was determined that me entering into self-employment was not as beneficial as me staying at Margaritaville. Again, I left in July 2019, and then a global pandemic hit. When I left Margaritaville, I was leaving to start a new beginning. I left not knowing a global crisis was looming. I did everything expected of me. I applied for multiple programs for assistance because my new line of work, my new business as a life coach, was being affected by the pandemic. It was difficult getting clients, having people attend my classes, people being scared of how they are going to get by, if they are going to get sick, if they are going to die, etc. I applied for assistance with whatever program would help me. Since I was approved for UI, I was unable to be eligible for PUA. Now you are saying I'm not eligible for UI? This doesn't make any sense and is very duplicitous. Nor is this my fault. I went with the PUA first and got denied. DETR, you cannot approve applications during the height of the global pandemic and then scrutinize and try to revoke, deny, and make me pay back assistance that is needed. You are trying to nullify the whole claim that you approved me for in May 2020. I put my dates at Margaritaville and I also put Enchanted Forest on there as well. I didn't hide anything and you approved me. I am appealing your notice of denial because it is erroneous. Also, I am owed money. The remaining money from my claim, the $510, and to receive the extended benefits, number 6. I have proven with multiple documents my journey with you, DETR, from the PUA, UI, and the correspondence. I have provided sufficient evidence that your denial of my unemployment benefits is not because of my error. I do not agree with your proposed decision. Leaving my previous job is not the point. The point is you, DETR, approved me with UI benefits based off of my 2019 income, which is what you would have had to have looked at, and are now trying to revoke it. You can't deny me from both the PUA and UI. It doesn't make sense. For all these reasons, I am appealing your decision and will keep appealing if necessary. Lastly, the adjudicator who recently made this egregious decision on my file didn't look at the sum of all parts. I am giving you, DETR, no other option but to look at everything, thus proving my appeal is not only reasonable and warranted, but also is the correct course of action for this to be rectified. Sincerely, Maria, my last name that I crossed out, 4/16/2021. Whew! My goodness. My appeal rocks. I was very proud of my appeal. I did make a couple of mistakes, however, and that does happen when you are editing. When you don't always... I proofread my appeal many times, but I forgot a word, and I wasn't going to change it because this is the original. It's a copy, of course, but this is what I sent in to unemployment, so I wasn't going to change it just because I forgot a word. I did, however, want to show you this appeal. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to show the slight differences. This one is for the appeal of notification of overpayment. This part is changed of where to send it to. If you guys look from my first page, I put notification of overpayment, and then on this one I put for unemployment benefits, because they had to get sent to 2 different places, so I wanted to put both in my paperwork so that each know that the other got sent a copy. Number 1 is different because I had to put the notification of overpayment, a different piece of paperwork, but everything is the same except for the last page. And I added, I understand that because of this denial of benefits, therefore there is a notification of overpayment number 1. For me to pay back the claim would create an undue hardship during a global pandemic where I am struggling to find another job and I haven't received any income from UI since October 2020. Paying back money would further put me in even more emotional and financial distress. The back and forth with this whole thing is exhausting and extremely stressful. So that's just the only difference, and I wanted to show you guys that. I want to talk about what was going on in my life at this time. I left Enchanted Forest in January of 2021, and I was looking for work. I was applying to jobs both on the Las Vegas Strip and off the Strip. And I have to say, I didn't hear back from a single job. Not one. And I could see so many people were applying to jobs, but not hearing back. I never heard from anyone. Something that did happen that was telling, though, is I applied to work at a flower shop on Indeed. The owners wanted people to apply in person, and you would get a same-day interview. The posting listed a date and time to show up. The interview was supposed to be done by the owners. I showed up at the time listed, and the flower shop was closed. There was another woman who showed up too. We had to wait around for an hour. When they opened the flower shop, the manager didn't know anything about it. They didn't know anything about it. The owners weren't there, and they were the ones that put up the posting. So guess what? No interviews were being done that day, and the people that worked at the flower shop told us to fill out an application. So I did, but I thought to myself, Maria, why bother? Why are you doing this? This is a preview of what it would be like working here. It's not okay that this is your job posting. The time isn't right. The owners aren't there. There's no interviews that can be done that day. And the people who worked at the flower shop knew nothing about this. And that's not okay to do that to the people that work for you. So this was just very icky for me because more shadiness. So what did I decide to do? I decided to go in a new direction. I had it with my own bank coming after me, unemployment accusing me of fraud, just all of the abuse of power. So I said to myself, Maria, you need to do something for you and just you. In 2020, I had wanted to drive cross country, but I didn't do it. I then decided, just do it. Just do this. I said to myself, I'm going to face some fears, and I'm going to take a completely different risk, a different kind of risk. In the beginning of May 2021, I drove cross country as a woman on my own, and I needed to do something empowering for myself because I was dealing with such disempowering things. I was so nervous, terrified out of my mind, right? Full of anxiety. I cried. I was shaking like a little leaf, but I did it. I drove for 6 days, and I drove to Massachusetts, which is where I'm originally from. I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and I grew up near Worcester, Massachusetts. I have to say, it was one of the best things I ever did for my own self. I wanted to see the country, Not everything was open, but I was glad I did it. I stuck around Mass for a little bit and decided impromptu to move. I drove back to Vegas, wrapped up things in Vegas, and drove back to Massachusetts. I was one of the people part of the Great Migration. I traveled cross country 3 times in 2021, and I stayed safe. I also met some really great people along the way, which was awesome. I also want to say to people, I was stressed from my first trek, and I thought to myself, you will never do this again. Like, how are you going to get back to Vegas? Because it was really, really nerve-wracking. By the second trip, I felt better the more I went. Again, it was 6 days. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I didn't have so much of a freak out as I did my first time. The third time was so much easier. And now I know that I can do this. I can drive cross country. And I have to say, that's really, really empowering. See? No net. Testing my own grit. And building skills. Constantly building. And I had to rely on myself in a different way. I didn't know if I had the courage to do it, but I did. I was really proud of me. So that was what was going on in my life. Look who it is. It's PUA. Hi, PUA. Ugh. PUA, if you come back, you have to come back correctly. None of this game playing stuff you've been doing. So I got this emailed to me on 7/7/2021. It is stating that I am now eligible for the PUA and I would get $281. Everything is still the same. And now we just know that I'm disqualified from UI and I have committed unemployment fraud and my appeal is out there. So when I got this, I really didn't do anything with it. I just thought, whatever. These next 3 documents are incredibly important. Very, very important. Now you can see this is from PUA. This was emailed to me on 7/14/2021. You don't even need to see my appeal from PUA, but you know that I did file an appeal. And if you look at the date, it's almost a year from when I filed, like I made my appeal with PUA, because I did my appeal in August of 2020. I will just read this to you. It says, invalid appeal filed, notice of invalid appeal filed. The way that sounds, it makes it sound like the person who wrote the appeal screwed up. So that's strange. But I'll read. Dear Maria, the Nevada Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation PUA Appeals Tribunal has received your appeal on pandemic unemployment assistance claim number blank. After reviewing the appeal, it has been determined this appeal is invalid because the denial has been reversed. I understood what they were saying, but they worded it very strangely. Shouldn't it just be that they agree with my appeal, that my appeal is valid? So they're reversing my appeal because I don't need my appeal anymore. But there's another way to word that. So I just went, oh, okay. This I received from PUA telling me that I am requalified for PUA. I'm qualified now. This is not that important to know. This is extremely important to know. You may receive multiple decisions on your claim. Please note that any one denial decision supersedes all other decisions. Are you kidding? What is this? I read this and my eyes bulged. I'm sure yours are as well. Right now. Right this very moment. Now, I didn't pay much attention to this when I received it on 7/14/2021 because PUA is a joke. This is a joke. Nothing that I have received from PUA has panned out at all. So, like, what is this? But this isn't okay. I knew, however, I needed to help out my PUA people because it seems whichever direction you went in, PUA or unemployment, you seem to get screwed. Quite frankly though, this is sickening. PUA is already letting you know we will play mind games with you. A whole bunch of yeses, different amounts that you will receive, exactly what you see with my paperwork. But guess what? If you get one denial, just one, that is the one you have to go off of. It supersedes everything else. Excuse me? Excuse me? Oof. When I read this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Now, I bet you guys can guess what I got next. PUA disqualifying determination, same date, 7/14/2021. Why am I being disqualified? You have not provided supporting documentation in order to authenticate your claim for pandemic unemployment assistance. When was I supposed to send in information to PUA? At any point. See, still says the same thing. You may receive multiple decisions on your claim. Please note that any one denial decision supersedes all other decisions. Well, this is my denial, and this is the one I have to go off of, so I'm not qualified for PUA either. PUA definitely did not know what they were doing. And it's very clear that PUA was just throwing everything in there to cover their own selves. This is a huge, huge problem. Like, this is horrible, and it needs to be addressed because PUA is federal. So the government, you need to address this. So this is saying to me, this is what I'm thinking, that PUA has had enough. They don't want to give people any more money. It's clear that at the end of 2020, it's like they don't want to give people money anymore. And 2021, they are accusing people of fraud and ongoing. So PUA, federal government, you have some explaining to do. This, big problem. Big problem. Explain, please. Please. Guess what? I have another appeal. Okay, I'm going to read and then I'll talk. November 13th, 2022, Unemployment Appeal Reopened. Attention, Board of Review. My name is Maria Blank. I am writing to you, the Board of Review, to request that my appeal be reopened. My case for my appeal for unemployment was dismissed because I was not in attendance. I wanted to explain why I was not there for the hearing. I was not in attendance for the hearing by phone because I had moved out of state. When I received the voicemail on 10/27/22 that I missed my appeal hearing, I was very confused. I tried calling back and could not reach a person to talk to, so I waited until I got further information. On 11/4/22, someone else left me a voicemail, but this time with a different phone number to contact. I called and was able to speak to someone so that I could get more information about what was going on. I was then told you had mailed a letter on 10/11/22 to let me know when my appeal hearing was. I never received that letter, and I never even knew that the hearing was scheduled. I had moved out of state from Nevada in September 2021. I had written and mailed my original appeal for unemployment in April 2021. When I moved, I had my mail forwarded with regular postal mail for 1 year and had actually been waiting to hear back about my appeal. I never received a letter, an email, a phone call, or any correspondence about my appeal until 10/27/22. So, I had my mail forwarded for a long time and was anxiously waiting to hear back. I received mail from the state of Nevada during the forwarding process, but nothing from the appeal for unemployment. I put a tremendous amount of effort and work into my appeal for unemployment, and if I had known about it, I absolutely would have made the time and effort to show up. It is very important to me, and I would not have blown it off. I never knew about it and was surprised and confused by the voicemail on 10/27/22. It was even more frustrating when I called the phone number back and couldn't talk to a person to get further clarification from. I had to wait to get more information when someone left me a voicemail on 11/4/22 and then explained also that they received a returned claim of dismissal letter on 11/4/22. So I never received any letters about the appeal process. I am asking that my appeal be reopened so that I can have a fair chance of appealing my unemployment case. I have had to wait for a long time for my appeal hearing, 1.5 years. It seems only fair that since the appeal process has been backed up for so long, and in that time I never received any communication about the process, that I be allowed a real chance at appealing and pleading my case. I have updated my account on ui.nv.gov about the address change. I know that the process is backlogged, and I also did have my mail forwarded for 1 year, and I was expecting/hoping to hear about my appeal in that time or sooner. I even let my former roommate know if I was to receive mail to let me know before I moved and changed my address and had my mail forwarded. I am sincerely asking for my case to be reopened so that I can have a fair chance at my appeal. When I say fair chance, I mean me being able to have a voice about my appeal. I understand why my case got dismissed, which was because I wasn't present for it. I am hoping that you, the Board of Review, can be equally as understanding as to why I was not present and to grant me another date for my hearing that I will be present for. I did make efforts on my part for open communication, and I am hoping you can see this. Thank you, Board of Review, for taking the time to read this. I really appreciate it. Sincerely, Maria blank. Whew. Well, I must say, oh my gosh, this was disheartening that I had to write another appeal to reopen my appeal. It's like they were trying to break my spirit. I was surprised, shocked, and annoyed when I received a voicemail on 10/27/22 by the referee, Scott Larson. I didn't know a single thing about this. He didn't leave a phone number to contact, so I called the missed call that called me, 702-486-3387. I could not speak to a person. It was automated of like, oh, pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, etc. And then it would hang up. So it wasn't even an option to speak to a person, so I had to wait. On 11/4/22, a voicemail was left with a different phone number to contact, and that phone number that called was 702-486-3387. The phone number they left to contact was 702-486-7933. That phone number I could talk to a person. I called twice. The first woman was not helpful, and she was bothered that I called. Second woman was so nice and incredibly helpful and trying to give me information to help me. So thank you to this woman who was actually trying to help me and help me with my appeal. She told me I needed to put in my appeal that I had my mail forwarded with regular postal mail, and she said that my appeal goes a long way. We do, however, have problems. We have problems with this whole thing. My appeal hearing was 10/27/22, and they mailed a letter on 10/11/22 to let me know when my appeal hearing was. That is a very short window. That was intentional. I didn't find out about information until speaking with this woman. The Appeals Office for Unemployment Dismissal letter mailed on October 31st came back as returned mail saying forwarding time expired. Returned on 11/4/22. Once that got returned back to unemployment, they called me on 11/4/22, which means they would have received returned mail for my appeal hearing and didn't call to tell me. The one they sent on 10/11 would have also gotten kicked back to them. So they let me know about one of them, but they didn't let me know about my appeal hearing. That was intentional. This is shady, very shady, and just the misuse of power is everywhere. Everywhere. This is from Unemployment. It was mailed on November 18th, 2022, but I received it after that. And it is just saying that Unemployment, DETR, received my appeal to reopen my appeal. And as you can see, Maria, and then it says Massachusetts. So see, I moved. Proof that I moved. And this had my previous employer down and their information listed, but I didn't include it. And I also just wanted to say this. I had been waiting and unemployment mails paperwork to you, and I know this. So when I had my mail forwarded, I got mail from the state of Nevada, and I thought to myself, if the mail from the state of Nevada can get to me, then mail from unemployment can get to me. And I just thought I had done enough. Side note, at this point, I had written three appeals, 1 to PUA and 2 to unemployment. This one I faxed. This is the decision by the Board of Review. The decision date was mailed on 12/7/2022. The date the board's decision is final, 12/19/2022. Final date for appeal to court, 12/30/2022. It has my name, where I live, Massachusetts. It has a docket number that I blocked out, and it says affirmation of referee's dismissal for non-appearance. A notice of hearing was mailed to the claimant's address of record, advising her of the date, time, and location of the evidentiary hearing before the referee. The claimant did not appear at the scheduled hearing and did not contact the referee or request a postponement. The Board of Review has considered the claimant's reasons for non-appearance and for failing to contact the referee. The board finds that the reason given for the claimant's non-appearance is not compelling in nature. The board affirms the referee's decision to dismiss the claimant's appeal pursuant to NRS 233B.121, number 5. This decision is unanimous, Board of Review, and then with the man's name, J. Thomas Susich, who's the chairperson. When I received this, I cried. I cried because this was the first time that I felt like I had made a mistake. I was mad at myself and angry, and I thought, like, this is it? Or I have to do another appeal? The week of 12/7/2022, I had COVID. I took the standard 5 days off from the job I had at the time, and then I took a few more days off because of COVID. I knew I wasn't even going to be able to go to Vegas to appeal this. I didn't have it in me. After this, I felt drained and defeated. For me, I was mad at myself for not showing up for my hearing. Like, how could you have forgotten to change your address, Maria? Like, how could you have forgotten to do this? Now I'm going to explain my time in Massachusetts. My time in Massachusetts has not been smooth sailing in the slightest. I had something that happened to me that shook me to my core and was heartbreaking. I moved around 3 times in a very short span of time. I also moved to New Hampshire for a period of time. Funny enough, in New Hampshire, there was a boom of people moving there and buying houses and whatnot. What I noticed, though, is jobs were paying more in Massachusetts than they were in New Hampshire. I was mainly using Indeed and companies' websites. So I was living in New Hampshire but applying to jobs in Massachusetts. I was doing phone interviews and Zoom interviews. That's also like all that people were doing at that time. In February 2022, I had applied for a job in Massachusetts on Indeed. They got back to me the same day, and I had a phone interview, and they wanted me to come in the next day for an in-person interview. I drove from New Hampshire to Massachusetts for this interview. I drove back up to New Hampshire, and yes, they actually did hire me. I got a phone call later that evening. I had a couple of days off from when my first day of work started. I gathered some of my things and moved back to Massachusetts. I changed my address 3 times. So the government, you can look this up. Like, oh, she's not lying. She actually did live 3 places. What I didn't know is that this job was going to be the start of many high turnover rate, toxic work environments that I would encounter in Massachusetts. I also know this is a microcosm for what's going on all over the United States. It's not just happening in Massachusetts itself. I know it has been said that there has been a lot of jobs that have been created and we are trying to get unemployment down. I understand that. However, I am someone who has been in the mix of applying to jobs. I've applied to over 100, more than likely over 200 jobs. And I can tell you that a lot of the jobs that are out there are crap. The pay isn't much to live off of. I wasn't making more money when they saw that I had a degree. Businesses and companies were posting jobs that were not matching the work. There was abuse of power, and I saw a lot of burnout from people. So much burnout. They are churning out quantity, not quality jobs. The government can also look up the amount of jobs that I've had in Massachusetts. It's been quite a bit because I have been quitting and leaving the high turnover rate toxic jobs. There was one job I left, but I didn't officially quit, and they sent me a letter saying I abandoned my job. And I was not fazed by it. These toxic jobs didn't care about me. I also wasn't treated with respect at times. I didn't include any of that in my appeal because I was also in survival mode, where I was really just focused on the present of what was going on in my life. I had moved around and all these things, and I didn't always change my address with everything, but I thought with unemployment I had done enough. But with unemployment, it didn't even register that I needed to do anything else with it. It didn't even come up. Where I was working at the time of my appeal hearing, I was working as a tutor, but it was a very temporary job that someone helped me get while I was applying to other jobs. I was in the midst of getting another job, but it was one of those trial periods where you don't work a full shift in the beginning. But this other job is the job I did get and was the one I was working at when I got COVID in December. After giving myself some time to defog from COVID, I said to myself, look at this decision again. And I started to look at the dates. The dates are key. I realized it was around the holidays, Christmas and New Year's. And in Vegas, the rates of everything go up for New Year's. They put that time frame down intentionally because they knew I lived out of state and they knew I wasn't going to come during that time frame. I thought about it even more and realized they were never going to open up my appeal, never approve it. My appeal was very strong, and it made DETR, Unemployment and PUA look really, really bad. They were also probably really glad I didn't show up for my appeal. Why? Because I was the person whose appeal they would have had to have approved to grant. And I bet they would have had to do it begrudgingly. My appeal was compelling. But I also bet this Board of Review did this not compelling line to many people. It's just not compelling. It's not compelling. I think this Board of Review needs to be looked into thoroughly because I see a lack of integrity and misuse of power. Also, this Board of Review should have heard me out regardless, if they were being fair and impartial, because I had two adjudicators say two very different things about my claim. They should have granted my appeal to hear me out, but they also knew saying I didn't have a compelling reason to quit is irrational, unreasonable, groundless. So they would have had to approve my appeal. They clearly did not want to do that. I also want this to be said. I didn't do anything wrong. I applied on May 22nd, 2020 for help from either PUA or unemployment because a global pandemic occurred. Not just in your town or city or state or country, but the whole world dealt with a pandemic. I was applying for assistance because it was affecting my line of work. The pandemic affected everyone's line of work. Where are people's hearts? It seems like human decency is being lost in so many ways, and it needs to come back. All right. So I know with the Board of Review's decision, this looks bad. This looks pretty bleak of like Maria, you fought the good fight. Now what? Now what? I say, have hope. Keep some hope alive here for me, okay? I know this is tough, but try. Try to have some hope here. Now we have another piece of paper from DETR that I received. The date is 5/22/2023. I received it after. Has my name, where I live, Massachusetts. And it says that the balance is over 90 days and I owe the full amount, $18,496. But I didn't receive paperwork for a while. And then when I did, it said the over the 90 days one. So I never received the balance for the over 60 days or over 30 days. I didn't receive those. But I kind of feel like I received something in April of 2023 because it was explaining my options, as in you pay or you can fill out an overpayment waiver form. If you get approved, you don't have to pay back the money, but it still says that you committed unemployment fraud. So how does this work? When people run my Social Security, does it pop up that I committed unemployment fraud? Like, that's predatory. I also don't know if unemployment, PUA, DETR, like they're under that umbrella, is tricking people when someone gets a letter saying they were overpaid. DETR is saying you committed fraud, which is why you hear me throughout my video saying fraud. That's why I keep saying that and not just like, oh, I've been overpaid. No, they're saying something different to you. It's fraud. Which is why they're also saying like I owe the whole thing back. But I want you guys to look at this. Look at the dates. Look at the dates. 5/22/2023, and I applied on 5/22/2020. So I noticed this actually in October. And I realized that my claim went up really, really high. Probably to the highest person in Nevada unemployment, DETR. Because this is intentional. This is someone up high in DETR giving me the finger. Because they're like, yeah, you fought the good fight. You tried. And you made us nervous. But guess what? We won. We beat you. And we are going to rub it in your face. That's what DETR is doing. And they're also saying to themselves this, which I noticed this and I just started laughing. DETR said to themselves, oh, this is when you applied for programs. So guess what? Happy anniversary. You owe everything back. I'm like, that's so thoughtful. That's so nice. That's so nice of them. So the important thing to know on this piece of paper, besides the dates and what I owe, is this part. The record reflects you have a balance that has been outstanding for more than 90 days. The division has legal authority to take civil action to enforce collection of this debt, and your account is being reviewed for possible legal action. And I read that and I thought, okay, but I'm not paying. I said to myself, I'm not paying you, unemployment, DETR. I'm paying you nothing. I didn't commit fraud. So I'm not giving you money. That's what I said to myself. Not giving you money at all. I received this with the piece of paper before. It's saying that I owe $364 a month. And that's a huge bill. That's a car payment. And nowadays, who can afford like an extra payment like that? Like, no one. But I did have a voicemail left on 6/26/23 from 402-401-7597 from Omaha, Nebraska. And it was from the Benefit of Integrity program from the state of Nevada. I thought, thought to myself, you know, if you're from the state of Nevada and you're from the Benefit of Integrity program, then how about you call me from, like, Nevada, not from Omaha, Nebraska. So I knew that was intentional, and, you know, creditors are predators. So, I got another bill. Date 7/31/2023. It's due 8/21/23. Minimum amount due $364. I didn't keep the second page, which is why I wrote it up top. And I thought to myself, like, look at these dates. These dates aren't even making sense. It's just making up dates for bills. So, like, see, that's another way to tell that the 5/22, the one before, was on purpose. I love how just like my whole claim has been messed with. But I thought to myself, take legal action against me. I dare you. I want you to. Want to know why? Because of all my paperwork, my evidence. I will show it to whoever if they were going to take legal action against me before I completed this video. It has taken me time to gather everything and work on these videos. I started working on things in August, and I thought to myself, I'm going to call their bluff. Like, I don't think they're actually going to do anything about it, but, like, let's see. Let's see. Another bill came. Date 9/25/2023, due 10/16/2023, minimum amount due $364. Everything is the same. Nothing has changed. I thought to myself that this was an intimidation tactic, the whole thing. So I was still calling their bluff. Like, okay, take legal action against me. It doesn't bother me. I will show my paperwork, my evidence to whoever, and they will probably be horrified and go, what the is this? So, you know. But they've been sending me these things, and I also believe something else as well. I know it looks like I made a mistake not making it to my appeal hearing, and I thought that too for a while. I definitely did. But guess what? I didn't make a mistake at all. I didn't make a mistake at all, if you can believe this. If you can believe this, believe it. Because I needed to see a particular piece of paper, a document that I would not have seen if I had gone to my appeal hearing. I'm going to talk about this form next. This is DETR, Nevada Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation Overpayment Waiver Form. On the bottom of this document, there is an HTTP, which you can type in, or you could Google Nevada Overpayment Waiver Form. I would love for everyone who's watching to pull up this document to view. However, that's okay if you don't, but I would really appreciate it if my people in Nevada could pull this up, especially Nevada, because this has to do with Nevada. I initially looked at this document on my phone, and as I was reading it, I said to myself, Maria, do not fill this thing out. Don't even bother. It is not going to go in your favor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read, and then I'm going to talk. Overpayment waiver. In order to receive a waiver of your overpayment, you must provide information to show that your repayment of this debt would cause extraordinary hardship. An extraordinary hardship is defined as an individual's loss or inability to maintain minimal necessities of food, medicine, and shelter. In making a financial hardship determination, the division will take into account all income of the family household. If you are requesting a waiver, please answer the following questions and acknowledge the form. Contact information. First name, last name, claimant ID, last 4 digits of the Social Security number, street address of contact, city, state, zip code, telephone number, email address. Reason for BPC overpayment waiver. Explain the reason for the waiver request. Define the hardship. List the names, ages, and the Social Security numbers for each family member in the household who are wage earners. Number 3, list all outstanding debts and monthly expenses for the entire family household. For consideration, you must attach supporting documentation. Number 4, list names and ages of all dependents. Number 5 didn't show up when I printed it out. Number 5 is, have you secured work? If yes, provide return to work date with your new monthly income amount. You can upload the document and then notice acknowledgement. Certification, I certify the information reported on this form is true and correct. I understand that if I intentionally make a false statement or misrepresent the facts on this form, I could be subject to criminal prosecution. Notice acknowledgement. That is the whole form. So I'm going to break down this document so people have an understanding of it. If you do not entirely know what is wrong with this document, that is okay. I'm going to break it down and explain. So I'm going to talk about the parts of this document that are off or are alarming. Right from the very beginning, it went from individual to group, where it said family household. Contact information, it should say claimant information. Last 4 digits of the social security number, it should say social security number. Street address of contact, it should say street address. Reason for BPC overpayment waiver, doesn't explain what BPC is on the form. Question number 2, list the names, ages, and the social security numbers for each family member in the household who are wage earners. This is a warning bell, like alarming, horrifying. I'm coming back to this question. Number 3, list all outstanding debts and monthly expenses for the entire family household. For your consideration, you must attach supporting documentation. Part of this question is off, and this question is also a diversion tactic. I am coming back to this one. Notice acknowledgement, it makes it seem trivial, like it's no big deal. The fact that it can only be submitted electronically, this makes it easier to hide. Also, the order of questions and the questions themselves. Number 2, part of number 3, but also number 5, have you secured work, shouldn't be the last question. But because number 5 is the last question, it is telling where the priority is. So, what is DETR, Unemployment and PUA, looking for? They want you to put other people's names, ages, and social security numbers down because the person or people you put down are potentially on the hook or become legally responsible for paying your claim. They're looking for people to pay. DETR knows you, the claimant, who is filling out this waiver, cannot pay. So they said, that's okay. We are going to look for someone else to pay this claim. The people you put down on this form on question number 2 are at risk. DETR wants social security numbers because they want to see how much money this person, the wage earner, makes. If the person you put down makes more money than you, the claimant, they're going to have that person be on the hook for your claim. That's their goal. You, the claimant, are not DETR's priority. The priority is the wage earner you put down, which is why it's the second question. The second question is the most important to DETR. Also, number 4, question 4 of listing dependents. They're not asking for your child or children's social security number. Why? Because DETR does not care. They want people who are wage earners. That's why they're looking for social security numbers from the wage earner. The goal is not to have the claimant get out of paying. It is to have someone else pay. That is the goal. This is entrapment. This is a trap. This is also highly illegal. This is a spiderweb trap trying to trap people. This is a full-blown spiderweb trap. Spiderweb complete trap. I'm going to go through question 2 and use examples. List the names, ages, and the social security numbers for each family member in the household who are wage earners. So it's who you put down, right, is at risk. So I'm going to use the standard one that we probably all normally think of. If you are married, if you put down your spouse's name, DETR will check to see how much money your spouse makes. And if your spouse makes more money than you do, Now you still have to pay back the money, but now it's your spouse that is responsible for it. I will also use the example from, remember the first paper that I showed you on 5/22/2020 from PUA? And I spoke about people also didn't have jobs. So this can also be for stay-at-home parents. I'm going to use myself as an example. If I was a stay-at-home mom and say my husband knew that I applied for the PUA and then I came to this form, I would put, because I'm not making any money, I would put my husband's name, age, and social security number down. So DETR is going to look at what my husband makes, and because I'm not making any money, he's going to be responsible for my claim. I'll do this in a different way. What if I'm still a stay-at-home mom, but I don't let my husband know that I applied for a program? And the PUA is easy to hide because every document that I received from PUA came in my personal email, and then everything was also done electronically. So it is easy to hide this. So, for example, if I'm a stay-at-home mom, I don't tell my husband that I applied. I get to this form, and then I put his information down. Now he's on the hook for my claim, and he doesn't know a single thing about it. Different scenarios that can come into play with this. Another scenario, parents, because this is about who you live with that have jobs. So your parents are included. The way number 2 is left, it's also left in an open, ambiguous way. So a parent or parents that you live with, if one of them makes more money than you, then they are now responsible for your claim. Also, boyfriend, girlfriend, life partner. If you live with them, share bills, and if you put their name and social security number down, DETR is going to look at whoever you put down on number 2. So this could include potentially grandparents, aunt, uncles, etc. Who do I think would be able to get out of this spider web trap that I believe? I believe single parents would be able to, because they'd have to look at only what that person makes. And then you'd have to list their child or children, and they'd have to go off of that person's monthly expenses, the individual. If you lived with roommates, I wouldn't put a roommate's social security number down, and I wouldn't know it, so that's a way to get out of question 2. If you lived alone, you could only go off of what you make, and also if your partner made less money than you, that's a way to get out of it. Now I'm going to go with number 3, question 3. List all outstanding debts and monthly expenses for the entire family household. For consideration, you must attach supporting documentation. Number 3, you shouldn't be listing all outstanding debts. There is no need for DETR to know your whole financial history. That is not necessary and is excessive. That's excessive. They should only be going off of your monthly expenses. Monthly expenses, not anyone else's. Putting all debt and expenses for the whole household down is a diversion tactic. Because they don't want you to focus on question number 2. Number 2 is DETR's goal, priority. That's what they want. So this, number 3, is like, okay, we're going to throw this in here, and we're going to distract you. Because listing all outstanding debt, everyone has debt. A lot of people have debt in different ways. So you putting down your debt isn't going to make DETR exclude you from this. They're like, okay, we'll just add to your debt. That's fine. But the fact that you have to provide all this detailed documentation, and if you don't provide it, they can reject you, is a problem. So that also means it's a no-win situation for many people that I believe. I know people who filled out this waiver were not expecting this. People were expecting, okay, I fill out this waiver, it's the last form I have to fill out, and I have to give all this information, but I'll be approved and I won't have to pay. I bet so many people were shocked that the opposite happened. A new horror ensued. The whole form is a trap. The way this document is set up, I know there are people that are paying for other people's claims, which is awful. This is awful. I also feel like this needs to just be discussed, just because people get married doesn't mean people morph into one human being. You are two separate people, individual people. I don't know if because so many documents ask for other people's social security numbers, maybe people are more used to putting it down. But that's also why this is a trap. DETR was thinking maybe people won't notice if we slip this in. Only the claimant's information should be on this waiver, this document. The person who applied for unemployment or PUA assistance. This is about where you worked, the individual one person. Or if you didn't have a job, that's okay. DETR still has to look at only the person who filled out the application. What the claimant's monthly expenses are, if you, the individual, have secured work, if you have a child or children. No one else's social security number should be on this document except the claimant's. This is the only person's information they should be going off of, not anyone else's. This isn't about who you live with. This is deviating from the claimant. The focus should be about the claimant, the person who applied for assistance. This is why this is a complete trap, like completely predatory, full-blown entrapment, and entrapment is illegal. I'm going to put myself into this equation just so that you guys can see another perspective. If I filled out this waiver, because I didn't fill this thing out, I knew this thing was bad for me. If I filled out this waiver, the people I live with would be responsible for my claim. I live in another state and it has nothing to do with them. I'm the one that applied for unemployment and PUA, so they should only be going off of my information, not anyone else's, my monthly expenses, where I work, do I have children, etc. Also, throughout all of my paperwork, was it ever about other people or just about me? Throughout my entire paperwork, it's been about me. The focus shifted with this waiver. It deviated from the claimant. Why is the last form about other people who are wage earners? Right? We have to look at this in a deeper way. Everything has been about the individual, but then we get to this form, and now it's about group. The focus shifted. It was about other people, not the claimant any longer. That is a huge red flag. That's a problem. It should have been staying at the individual continuously, especially with this form. It should never have gone to group. The fact that it went to group and you have to put down social security numbers of other people, that is horrifying and disturbing, and it made me sick. If this document was above board, I would have filled it out. However, it is not, so I didn't fill it out. This form was not trying to help me. At a certain point, you have to look at just my file alone with my paperwork from April 2021 onward. That second adjudicator wasn't trying to help me. The Board of Review wasn't trying to help me. The only person that was trying to help me was the second woman I spoke to on the phone in November of 2022. So this form, when I got to this form, I'm like, this form isn't trying to help me. They're not trying to help me, like, not have to pay. No, they're trying to look for someone else to pay my claim. That's what they're doing. My advice would be for people who are paying for other people's claims, stop paying. Just stop paying. And tally up how many months or years this has been going on for and the amount. For my people who live in Las Vegas and the surrounding areas, I did just want to say that the email address for the adjudication they are dashes, not dots. So it is adj-north-ui@detr.nv.gov, and where the north is, you could also put south instead. I just wanted that to be stated because I realized I had said when I was speaking, I had said dots instead of dashes, so I wanted to correct that. Also, this overpayment waiver document I saw this year, but I don't know how long this has been going on for, since 2022, 2021, what about 2020? And this is for the state of Nevada. However, I certainly do not think that this is the only state that this happened to. So for people who live in other states, I would say the same thing. Stop paying, tally up how many months or years this has been going on for, and the amount. And I'd also email just to have it on record. But now I'm going to direct this towards the government. The government, you need to step in, because unemployment as a whole, I do not have any faith or trust that they will do the right thing. We are well past that point. We're in full-blown corruption and abuse of power, and it's sickening. We are going in a horrible, awful direction, which is predatory behavior. Predatory behavior can cover so many areas, and that's including financial. What you are seeing with my videos alone, Bank of America and unemployment, this is predatory behavior in the financial way. So the government, you need to step in and do something. All right, this is a lot. I know this is a lot. This is hard to deal with, accept, and confront, because it is also acknowledging that we have a lot of problems going on in our country. The problems that are hidden, the underneath, the intentional predatory behavior. But because we have been avoiding and burying our heads in the sand, being in denial, predatory behavior has only been increasing. We need to start learning how to deal with things. So, my next paper is on shadow work. I'm sure many of you have wondered what shadow work is, and shadow work is phenomenal. It's amazing. Shadow work is beautiful and amazing, and we're going to keep going. But before we get to my next paper, I do want everyone to take a break, because this is a lot and this is hard to hear and accept and confront. I do want people to take a breather, take a moment. So here we are at shadow work. Oh, I'm so excited. This means so much to me. I love shadow work. Shadow work is the treasure. It is a hands-on approach, which I think is, quite frankly, one of the best. I think people learn more hands-on as opposed to just always reading things from books. It is protection and prevention. This is extremely important. You also look at yourself first. In the mental health community, it is normal to look at others first. In shadow work, you look at yourself first. And I bet this might surprise people, the emotional realm is found in shadow work, which is, by the way, the emotional realm, the most feared, avoided, and misunderstood area. And, you know, it kind of shows because people avoid it. They avoid it. This, I think, will surprise many people. People's motives and intentions, good and bad, are in the underneath, not on the surface. So in order to understand human behavior, you need the emotional realm. You need the emotional realm more than you need the mental realm. And I don't know if we don't explain it that way, but we need the emotional realm more to understand human behavior. You also go deeper. You go below the surface, the undercurrent, the underneath. There is absolutely no denial in shadow work. There's no barrier. You learn how to deal. You are able to table things for a bit, but you're not in denial of them. So I will give an example with Bank of America closing my 2 credit cards. I was not in denial that that completely tanks my credit history. And then when banks close your credit cards, it acts like you never even had that credit card to begin with. So my 15 years each were just, it's like it never happened. So I was never in denial about any of that. However, I needed to wait for more information before I was able to proceed to do something, but I wasn't in denial about it. So there are differences. You can table things where you're allowed to not do something, but you're not in denial. No denial in shadow work, which is quite frankly what we need. We need no denial. There's been way too much denial going on, so shadow work is necessary. You also get to the root and to the solution. If you do not get to the root of something, you will never get to the solution. So they go hand in hand, and they are found in shadow work. And true healing is here in shadow work. The more you heal, the less of an ego you have. Your ego keeps diminishing the more you heal. And by the way, this is powerful, beautiful, and phenomenal when your ego isn't running the show. Otherwise, you have too big of an ego. Also, you have to use discernment, being perceptive. You're using different skills with shadow work, and they become stronger because you're, instead of using mental, you're using emotional more. So it's a different operating system, which is pretty cool, I have to say. And then you understand how things connect. This connects to this connects to that, cycles and patterns in a more complete way. Another aspect of unemployment that I consider grimy. In November 2022, I logged into unemployment in order to update my address. I had to reset my password, and to reset it, it asked for my father's middle name. I did it, but thought it was strange because I was never asked that prior. This year, for my video, I was considering logging in and printing out the documents I didn't have for you guys to see. I went on ui.nv.gov, and I noticed they changed their name to include insurance. Unemployment Insurance Nevada. And I thought, why add insurance to your name? You aren't insurance. This is duplicitous. I still couldn't remember my password, so I was going to reset it again, and now it was asking for my mother's maiden name. It felt off, so I didn't do it. It seemed suspect. I know they can look up on their own my parents' information. However, what happens when I plug this in? I didn't want to find out. So I haven't logged into unemployment since November 2022, and I will never again. I didn't trust this. Now, there may be some skeptics out there, and that's okay. Remember, we're dealing with no denial, right? We can all agree that there has been a lot of deception with both unemployment and PUA. I have an overwhelming amount of evidence of that. Unemployment is also doing what is called deceptive business practices. Their ethics are not there. They went away, mid to late 2020. They didn't just suddenly acquire ethics. That takes time, so therefore you must question it. When the system is working for you, you don't question it. When the system is not working for you, you question it. If it had stayed on my father's middle name to reset my password, I would have done it. Asking for my mother's maiden name for me to plug in felt like something they wanted me to put down to complete something unethical. I think we need to learn more about what happens when we plug in something on our end versus when they do. We are now at working on yourself, the building of skills, which is, I love this. This is so good. This is so much fun. And it's so good to do, and everyone can do this. Even if you have never tried before, or you don't know where to start, you can always start. It doesn't matter what age you are, you can always start. So I don't want people to think that they can't do it. They absolutely can. And it's fantastic, and this is a part of shadow work. So when you work on yourself, you are building up your own skill set in different areas, and you just keep going. You just keep going. And it's really powerful to watch your own self grow. It's life-changing. I love it so much. So I wrote down a bunch, and then I just decided to keep going. I went off book, and I went, okay, I'm just going to keep going all over the page. So that's what I did. I went off book. So I'm going to go through them. Standing up for yourself is phenomenal, and it is imperative for everyone to do. Number one skill set that we all must do is standing up for yourself. And when you have built this up enough, you can stand up for other people. If you haven't built it up enough, you have trouble standing up for others. If you have built it up strongly, you can stand up for other people like that. It's not even a question. Now, when you come across people in leadership roles who cannot stand up for other people, it is because they have not learned how to stand up for themselves yet. It won't work. It doesn't translate well. So standing up for yourself, very important. Number one. Having self-respect, honesty, not lying, being calm, showing vulnerability, having compassion, empathy, integrity, seeing both sides or many sides to something or other people's perspectives, facing fears, dealing with shame, learning how to let go of unhealthy people, situations, etc., being happy, self-love, work on trust issues, work on being a trustworthy person, being a leader, having a moral compass and ethics. Can you pivot? Can you go off book? Go no net? Being fair, work on communication and speaking your truth, taking ownership and responsibility for something, saying I'm sorry, not playing mind games or being manipulative, working on control issues, developing courage, treating people with respect, listening to people, learning how to not take stress out on other people, be encouraging, to try, put in the effort, even if it's hard for you, put in the effort, how to overcome being shy and still being shy, how to not push people away, work on self-esteem. These are my terms: independent, codependent, breaking codependency, being proud of yourself, how to be less moody, having hope, words and actions match, your words and actions lining up. Are you someone that talks a whole lot and you don't back it up? Those are important. They need to line up with each other. So an example of this would be if you say you're going to call someone, then please call them. If you say you're going to do something, please try to do it. Being less stubborn, deal with your emotions, putting yourself out there, going after what you want, not taking digs at someone, not getting someone into trouble, being strong-willed. I myself, Maria, am very strong-willed. How to take your power back. When something is really disempowering, we have to learn how to take our power back in a healthy way. Taking time off from work, that's also my workaholics out there. If you're a workaholic, you're also running from something. More rest, trying different activities without alcohol. We put too much of a focus on alcohol as the only tool, and we need to get away from that tool and use others, because we can't be using alcohol as escapism. Seeing past people's titles, question authority, how to check someone if a person is being rude or disrespectful, if their behavior is not okay, their actions are not okay. How to be yourself, strong boundaries. Also, everyone needs to cry. Crying is an emotion. Everyone needs to learn how to cry again, because people have trouble crying. Confidence, stop faking confidence. It's okay if you're not confident in everything. It's important to be honest and admit where you're at. Letting go of social conditioning, how to stop running away from your problems. Working on jealousy and envy, having hope. I said that twice because it's important to have hope, and it is really tough when things are just completely going wrong. How do you continue to have hope? Believing in love, love. Believing in love, if you've had heartache and pain, believing in love again. Looking at someone in the eye, being more independent, and doing activities and events alone, not just always being with someone. If you can do something on your own. So something that I would do in Vegas a lot is I would go to comedy shows, comedy clubs. It was so amazing. I loved doing it. Absolutely incredible. And laughing is awesome. Laughing is healing. We all need to do that. Not being defensive, having manners, stop being passive aggressive. The list just keeps going. You can't stop. It just keeps going, and it's fun. It's quite frankly fun to watch yourself change in a really incredible way that you didn't expect or anticipate that you could possibly accomplish. For a lot of people, they think, well, this is the way that I am and I can't change. That's how a lot of people have that mindset or mentality, and it's not true. We just have to try and work on areas that need improvement. But quite frankly, everything needs improvement in all areas. And shadow work is hands-on, so you get to keep trying, and then if it doesn't work, you can try again. It's phenomenal. I love it so much. I love it so much. Working on yourself is empowering. Empowerment is in shadow work. Empowerment is in shadow work. Watching your own self grow is just so beautiful. And you're betting on the right horse. Betting on yourself, working on your own self is so much better than relying on somebody else to validate you. You have to learn how to validate yourself. Yes. Now I'm going to talk about the mental health community, the spiritual community, and shadow work. About where shadow work came from. So with the mental health community, you deal with the symptoms first. Several come up first, and this makes sense because if you think of a tree, the symptoms are the branches. In shadow work, the root and the solution are found way underneath, so it makes sense that in the mental health community, they deal with the symptoms first. It is more from a book, from a checklist, and terminology can be used incorrectly. The mental health community focuses predominantly on mental, and not everything is mental. A lot of things that are put in mental are actually emotional. There's a focus on titles, and Carl Jung developed the concept of shadow work. In the spiritual community, spiritual bypassing is the norm, not shadow work. Airy is mainstream, grounded is not mainstream. And there needs to be a more grounded approach because people need to be connected to their humanness more, not less. There also is a focus on titles, and I also put an example of spiritual bypassing. A crystal is not going to fix you. So I'm going to talk about the crystal right now. I did a lot of my deep healing before I entered into the spiritual community. I'm someone who just keeps going with my healing. I was surprised and shocked to see many people buying crystals in order to heal or fix them. A crystal is not going to do more work than you, the human being. It takes hard work to become a better version of yourself. No amount of crystals are going to do the hard work for you. I myself never told anyone who took my classes to buy a crystal in order to heal or fix them. There is nothing wrong with buying a crystal and doing a crystal grid, a ceremony, or a meditation, but please do not expect a crystal to transform you. That is spiritual bypassing. You need to be putting in the effort required to transform you. Shadow work will transform you from the inside out, not a crystal. Buy a crystal because you like it. That's what I say. You like the color, you like the stone, buy it because you like it. And also, in both communities, there is a focus on titles. I wanted to talk about this. It's awesome to have an ability that you were either born with or discovered you had or acquired throughout life. It is awesome to have gotten whatever level of degree or certification in order to help people. It takes a village to help people. Having a title, however, doesn't exempt you from working on yourself and working on your own healing. We need more people in the healing communities to be working on themselves, not less. Otherwise, your ego is running the show. So shadow work is the foundation to the mental health and spiritual communities. It's the treasure. And guess what? Intuition is in shadow work. Your intuition, because everyone talks about intuition, your intuition is found in shadow work. Your intuition is not mental. People who say this have no idea how to explain intuition. I always look to see if people who talk this way, if they can explain intuition to other people. So this is also a skill. People need to work on admitting when they don't know something. I've learned how to do this in life. If I don't know something, I admit it. And many people cannot do this, and they like to save face and act like they know everything. that's not helpful. Admitting when you don't know something is helpful. So many people have no idea how to explain intuition. So when you read articles and you talk to people, they throw everything in the kitchen sink, they throw everything in there. And when you see someone that does that, that actually means they don't know what they're talking about, so they're trying to just put in fluff. I understand and know how to explain intuition. It's also tied with your emotions, with the emotional realm, so it's not mental. The way both communities, the mental health and the spiritual communities, are set up, both are in denial and are too surface, and also the focus is too much on others and not on improving yourself. I'm saying this because otherwise more people would be healing, they would be more evolved, they would be happier and in healthier relationships, not codependent ones, and people would be healing from pains in their life. And yes, people would be more vulnerable. Vulnerability takes time, but it is a strength. I am a very vulnerable person. I open up, I show who I am to people, and that is a strength of mine. I have never considered it a weakness. It has always been a strength. Instead, however, though, people avoid and run away from themselves and their problems. They blame others or take barely any ownership and responsibility for their words and actions, and saying I'm sorry is extremely difficult. Ego and pride keep people from admitting fault or admitting mistakes. Shadow work is a different operating system where you embrace the emotional realm, you don't avoid it. Carl Jung developed the concept of shadow work. The mental health community had shadow work first, but they didn't appreciate it. They didn't see it as the treasure at all. So shadow work got cast off by the mental health community and focused predominantly on mental. So they asked the spiritual community, hey, do you want shadow work? Because we really don't. And the spiritual community said, yeah, I guess, but we're still going to cast it off. It's not embraced, which is why shadow work hasn't been the main focal point for either. Both communities have aspects, but neither know what to do. The mental health community has emotional, but don't utilize it properly and act like everything is mental. And the spiritual community took on healing, but neither communities have been helping people to heal properly. The spiritual community focuses more on the angelic realm, and we all need to be focusing on being better people, not being angels. I will give the spiritual community some credit though. I heard about shadow work in the spiritual community, but I was doing my own version of it, not from where I worked, and I kept gravitating towards something called shadow work. I hadn't heard about it before at all. In college, my major was English, and I took a couple of psych classes, but that was it. Shadow work transforms you from the inside out, and healing is found in shadow work. You go deeper than the other communities, you are gathering more information, you get to the root and to the solution, you are utilizing the emotional realm in a profound way, so you are figuring out things in a more complete way. More information, that just makes sense because you have more information than the other communities, so then therefore you can tie things together that the other communities would have missed because they weren't going deeper and they weren't utilizing the emotional realm. You need to use the emotional realm when understanding human behavior. You can't do it without it. So shadow work is the plot twist. It's the plot twist. It's the foundation for both communities, and it's the treasure. Imagine having the treasure but not utilizing it the way it should be. Shadow work has been left alone by both communities. So no more. Maria Brophy is not allowing this. No more. Working on yourself is empowering. Empowerment is in shadow work. Also, you want to see other people be happy, succeed, and grow. You inspire you, but you help others to get inspired too. You're trying to help out other people as well when you are empowered and when you have been healing and your ego has been diminishing. When your ego is running the show, you only want to see yourself succeed, which is why we are also very, very competitive in our country, in our society. We're actually way too competitive, striving to be the best for perfection. That's very disempowering. That's not empowerment. That's disempowering. So we need to, we're going to change course here. We're going to do this. Something to know about me, Maria Brophy. I don't even know if I've ever shared this with people, but in high school, I loved, loved watching Dr. Phil. I loved his phrase, "You can't change what you don't acknowledge." I came up with my own phrase, too. I used to play this game with myself. Dr. Phil would have on a guest or guests, and he would listen to them. Then he would give his advice, his expertise, his guidance. I would listen to the guests, and I would come up with my own advice before Dr. Phil gave his, and see if my advice matched Dr. Phil's. It matched every time. It wouldn't have bothered me, though, if we didn't match, because I wanted to see if Dr. Phil thought of something or had a different insight that I might have missed or had not even considered. I would talk about getting to the root of something in high school, and Dr. Phil and I matched on that. Even though it was through the TV, I saw someone who could do what I could do. It felt comforting and normal. Everyone needs to see someone that is like them with skills and abilities, and yes, the same skin tone as them, different skin tones. In high school, guys were always trying to impress me. A guy I was seeing said to me one day, "Maria, I don't know how to impress you." I told him, "Just be yourself. That's how you will impress me. Not by being the captain of this, I'm so great at this, blah, 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 blah. Just be yourself. I'm going to like you for you, not because of your title. I care about if you are a decent person and if you treat me well." I didn't know then this would be the rarest thing to find. Someone who is just able to be themselves. It takes courage to be yourself, and treats me with respect. Oh yeah, and is single too. I thought about becoming a therapist, but changed my mind for a certain reason. I knew this was natural and just part of me. I knew I would take it wherever I go or profession I choose to go into. I'm also someone who consistently has been working on myself. It's natural to me. Years later, I felt a pull towards life coaching, which makes sense because it's more about personal accountability. I kept gravitating towards shadow work, and this year, heaven let me know, I've always been doing shadow work. Imagine doing something that you never even knew the title of. It happens like this in life. Heaven will circle you back to what's meant for you. I was never meant to go the traditional therapist way. I was meant to discover I'm a shadow work expert. A higher power made me learn things in a hands-on way before I knew the title of what I am. The title doesn't change me, it fits me. I just wanted to show everyone a few documents. I put my name, Maria Brophy, on this just for you guys to see that this is my own work. This is my knowledge, my information. I didn't get it from a book or from anyone else. This is just from me. So I wrote my first and last name, just for you to see. And then even for my paperwork, my evidence, I just wanted to show you guys a couple of items. So this would be the very important document that I requested from Bank of America. I crossed out my address, but I did leave, that way you could see my name, Maria Brophy. And then you see parts that I blocked out, which were like barcodes, letters, numbers. I put the research request number, I left that in, but I just wanted you guys to see my full name on the document. Same with this is from Unemployment. It says my name, Maria Brophy. I blocked out my address, and I also wanted you guys just to see, because on the back it was Spanish. It says Maria Brophy, Las Vegas, Nevada, and then it also has my claimant ID. And then this is an email that I had before, and it has my claimant ID on it, just for you guys to see. And it says Maria Brophy 606-2384. That was my claimant ID with unemployment. So I just wanted you to see my name on some of the paperwork. Ta-da! Hi! I just wanted to show my face. It is Maria Brophy. You have made it to the end of my unemployment video, and I am so proud. My sweatshirt says love. I am very proud that you guys did it. You made it through, and I knew you could do it. It was very hard, intense, very stressful, a lot of information coming at you. I totally understand, but all true, all true. And I'm really glad that you made it through. Thank you so much. Bye.